I absolutely despise the Bakugan console game. I don't really do video game reviews and I am open to that idea, but since I'm not much of a gamer, you'll most likely not see me review a lot of video games in the future. This is a special occasion because I recently bought the Bakugan Battle Brawlers video game for PlayStation 2 and it has been a catastrophe. I wasn't really expecting this game to be that good, especially given the ratings and reviews it received, but I was not expecting to hate it. Now, I hope this won't bother you. I don't have a game capture device, so I'm gonna have to use whatever footage I ended up using to cover the screen. So from the very beginning, I was already raising my eyebrows. When I witnessed the opening sequence, I noticed that Dan's narration was slightly different. It was the same voice actor, but they made him redo the entire opening narration for some reason I cannot explain. Sure, it didn't affect my enjoyment in the slightest, but it was definitely not a good first impression. And then we had the creation of the main character. For some reason, you don't have the option to choose a female character. Not to say that it was an inconvenience to me, because actually I would have ended up creating a male character anyway, but I'm sure there are some female Bakugan fans who would have preferred creating a girl character. And then you also have that group of guys who like to customize themselves as a female character, which is very common in the anime community. Speaking of anime, you don't have the option to choose the Japanese voices, which to be fair, most people are probably more used to the English voices, so it's not really much of a big deal. Anyway, when it comes to the designs of the characters, if there's one thing that kept constantly bugging me was the visibly scalar and unpolished lining of the characters, and then the backgrounds are badly blended in with the character layers. As for the environment of the story, it did feel nice and nostalgic seeing Akira and Shuji acting all tough, cocky, and then insecure right after Dan arrived. The background music is also the same as in the show, which did make me feel like I was in the world of Bakugan. Right until we entered the actual matches. I don't know how many times I got really angry while fighting against someone. Let's start off with the continuity. In story mode, you can participate in tournaments despite the fact that no tournaments were established in the first series. It was really just a long league, and not to mention, despite the fact that I'm a newbie and I occasionally fight against some of the highest ranked players, I somehow win them easily. Hell, some of them even have the difficulty set in easy. Not that it even matters anyway, because even if it was set in hard, CPU players are not challenging opponents. They make a bunch of dumb mistakes, and it really doesn't help that every time you brawl, unlike in the original series, you have to carefully place the Bakugan in the exact card you want to. So the CPU players just ended up screwing up and losing the ball. But aside from all of that, the tournaments contain stadiums based on whatever attribute they choose as thematical settings, which is strange because in the first series of which this game is based on, the only way you could have played Bakugan is if you entered the dark and empty battlefield. These attribute-themed stadiums would only make sense if Earth and Vestroia had collided, which during the first series only happened after Naga and Halji invaded Earth. Also, some of these stadiums have these archaic collectible items that just make my head hurt even more for not resembling the original series at all and making the game less grounded. Anyway, as for the actual matches, I noticed that we're only given 3 gate cards, and those cards aren't always related to our chosen attributes. In terms of the negative and positive effect on the Bakugans, they do vary depending on the attribute, some specific circumstances, and the Bakugan present in the gate card, which is all fine and dandy, but the categorization of the gate cards is not exclusively based on my attribute and my Bakugans, which is wrong. There are some cards that have special features for specific Bakugans, and they're called golden cards, but unfortunately you're only allowed to place 1 golden card on your deck. For example, I own a Serpenoid and a gate card that doubles its increase when open, but unfortunately I have to put it on the side because I need my Leonidas gate card since he's my main Bakugan. I mean, sure, I can use the Serpenoid card instead, and that's what I end up doing sometimes, but I hate how I have to choose one of them instead of having the option to have both cards on my deck. You also have silver cards that don't really do much besides increase J points, and then you have copper cards that have circumstantial variables, and with both these cards, no matter how much you've bought, you can only place one of them each on your deck, which I think is pretty inconvenient because the choices you make on the battles depend on the situation that you're in, and this system they imposed limits critical evaluation of your options. But that's not the biggest problem I have with the gate cards. For some reason, in order for you to win the game, you have to capture 3 gate cards instead of avoiding elimination by losing 3 times, which is ludicrous. In the show, in order for you to win, you have to defeat 3 Bakugans, not capture 3 gate cards. And in this game, if you place a Bakugan into the field and you either win or lose, you don't have the option to use it again unless it's to perform double stand, which by the way, the idea of a double stand is complete nonsense. In the show, you could very easily place 2 of your Bakugans to the same gate card and the game would continue, and the G points of the 2 Bakugans would combine. In this game, if you place 2 Bakugans to the same gate card, it's considered a victory, which is massively inaccurate. And if you place your Bakugan into the same gate card as your partner, it will count as a miss instead of combining their G points and teaming up. So basically, there's no way you can add more than 1 of your Bakugan into the same gate card. Also, for some reason, in tag team matches, each tag team shares 3 chances of winning the match, unlike in the show where each individual player has 3 strikes each. A huge side effect of this is that if my partner goes full on retard and loses every time it's his turn, it's going to directly affect me. And that's exactly what happened while I was playing, and it was really annoying. But anyway, getting back to what I was previously talking about, aside from the fact that you can't reuse your Bakugan even after winning a battle, if you get an opportunity where you can perform a double stand, you're given the option to use one of your Bakugans, including the ones that previously lost in the game, which is dumb. Also, it pisses me off that my gate card also increases my opponent's G points. I mean, that wasn't unlikely in the original show, but for God's sake, every time? Like, what side are you on anyway? Oh, and where are the Doom cards? That could have easily made the games a lot more exciting. But now let's get into something that's even dumber, the ability cards. Much like the gate cards, the ability cards aren't entirely categorized exclusively by their Bakugans and attributes, and their main function is to pretty much increase the G points depending on different variables, and the usage is very anticlimactic. We don't even witness their application with a special sequence or something cool like that. There are some ability cards that provide extra boosts to specific Bakugans, and there are some that are entirely exclusive to certain Bakugans, especially if they're the main Bakugans of the players. But again, I wish all of the ability cards were like that. But much like before, that's not my only problem. In the actual game itself, for some reason you're only allowed to use the ability cards after the gate cards are open, and you have the option to apply multiple ability cards into one Bakugan, which is not at all accurate. In the show, you're only allowed to use 1 ability card per Bakugan during one of the 3 turns. Now, in the game's defense, while you can apply multiple cards into one Bakugan, you only have 3 cards in total that you're allowed to use for the rest of the game. But again, I would have preferred you could only use 1. That way you can have a dozen of ability cards in your deck ready for usage at any time depending on your Bakugan. And you would have to choose wisely since you only get to use once per Bakugan. I also don't understand why you can't activate your ability cards before the gate card is open. It's probably because it keeps the individual battles more self-contained and focused, but not only does it prevent others from interfering with the battles, but in the show, there are some ability cards that disable gate cards and even transfer other Bakugans into your gate card, or even just transfer yourself into your opponent's gate card. I think the best solution for this problem would be to just give the players the option to position their attack to whatever player they want. But I still have one other issue. Even after applying your ability card, opening your gate card and have more G points, there's still a chance that you might lose. And that's because there are small mini games that you have to play as a way to either defend or gain enough points to surpass your opponent, which, first of all, that's insane. In the show, the closest there is to something like that is whenever a special and smart Bakugan uses an individual scare to take control of the game, which even then, that's very rare. Secondly, if you're going to pull off some crap like this, can you at least make the gameplay fun? At least let me control the Bakugan and maybe move around with him or something like that. Granted, I would have been much happier if this didn't exist at all and everything was just based on numbers. Oh, and by the way, when playing tag team matches, when your partner is fighting against his opponent, even if he has more G points after activating the cards, he can still lose because of those stupid mini games, and we don't even witness those mini games. I am of course talking about story mode. If you're playing alongside someone else in real life, you can of course witness the mini games and you might even have the option to help them, but with CPU, it's all up to chances. Like when I was playing with Dan, he had around 70 G points in advantage and he somehow lost. And yeah, those are pretty much my main issues with the game, and it's why I cannot stand playing this video game. I know this might come across as a weird video to upload since I never review video games, but I had to make this video because I was so filled with anger and frustration. I doubt you would do it anyway, but please don't buy this game, it sucks. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.